My name is Amit Pandey, and these are certification that I hold: CompTIA Plus, Network Plus, Security, CH Cloud, and Security Architect, right? And the Azure 900 as well, right? And I have 3 years, more than 3 years experience into this particular cloud part. Okay. And today's agenda, what we are going to discuss is that first of all, we are going to discuss about cloud service model, right? Then we are going to discuss about different cloud deployment models. Like there are ways in which we can deploy the clouds. So we will be discussing about that, right? And different service models are also present there. So we will be discussing that as well. Then we have, introduction to the cloud storages services. What are the different storages services are present in the cloud? There are plenty of them, but we will be just focusing upon few of them, right? Just two I will be showing you: S3, right? And EBS. Okay, I will be explaining you thoroughly what they are, and we will be doing a little bit of a hands-on thing as well, right? So to make your life, to make this particular concept and understanding much more easy, right? Then we'll be talking about security in the cloud and the challenges we face in the cloud part, right? So what are the security part, and where is a firewall as well, how it really looks like, okay, what is actually a firewall call in the context of a cloud. So all those kind of things we will be also going through that, right? Then is the future of the cloud, that what in the coming 5 to 10 or 15 years, what is going to be the future of the cloud, right? How it's going to look like, how it's going to change thing. Okay, so that's the thing, right? Okay, so the first thing that we are going to today discuss is something which is called the cloud service model. There are multiple cloud service models provided by the AWS to us, right? This because see, I teach the AWS particularly. We have, as in the previous session, I already told you, there are multiple vendors we have. Vendors means there are multiple organization, multiple companies are there which are in this particular cloud. Right, there was AWS, right? There was Azure. There is something which is called the GCP, okay, by the Google, right? Mostly I am will be explaining you cloud in the context of AWS, right? Why? Because it holds 50 to 60% of the current cloud market, okay? And it was the first organization that, created this complete cloud infrastructure and made it public for everyone to use, right? That's the thing. Okay. The first is something which is called infrastructure as a service, right? IaaS, right? Remember this thing. Doesn't mean every time you will be seeing this infrastructure as a service completely. Most of the time only IaaS, IaaS would be written, and you have to understand that this is what it means: infrastructure as a service, right? And then we have a PaaS, okay, and then we have another one which is called the SaaS. So I will be showing you a diagram, right? And that particular diagram would be making the particular concept very easy to understand. Okay, okay, guys. So these are the three deployment. Again, as I said, multiple deployment models we have, but these three are the very, very basics one. Okay, IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS. As the name tell, what it means is that IaaS stands for infrastructure as a service, PaaS stands for platform as a service, okay, and SaaS for stands for software as a service, right? Before jumping into the IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS, let me explain you about this thing, on-premises one. So these blocks that you're seeing right in front of you, focus upon this part only, okay? For a moment, focus upon this much, right? So these all the blocks, what are these blocks? These are these are the important and crucial component of your infrastructure, right? Like for example, in your organization, if your organization is not on the cloud, it is completely in the on-premises one. So what is the first component? The networking part, right? Then there is a storage. There would be some kind of a hard disk or SSD, internal or external SSD. There is a pen drive, okay? There is big servers where you store the data. That is the storage part. Then we have servers as well as, then we have virtualization, operating system, definitely for sure. If you are running any some kind of a machine, laptop, desktop, servers, definitely for sure you would be having some sort of an operating system for that, right? Then we have a middleware, then we have a runtime, data center, and application. These are all the components, okay? Like in when we are building a house, we have multiple components. We have concrete, we have bricks, right? Then some sort of we want water as well, right? So that we can mix this concrete and make a good solution, and then we can implement it, right? And all of these kind of things. So that's like that only we have multiple components in this infrastructure. Any infrastructure, whether that infrastructure is on the cloud or whether that infrastructure is completely in my premises, it is not present in the cloud. Okay, so these are application data and all those kind of things, right? So when the particular infrastructure is completely on the on premises and I am taking care of it, right? I am managing it. Okay, I am taking care of it, I'm updating it. If there is some kind of an issue, I am taking care of it, or a team that I have hired is taking care of it. All those kind of things are there, right? So in the on premises one, if you can see that in the on premises one, these all the blocks are in the blue color. Blue color means that I am responsible for them. The person particular person who's uh, on premises, they are present, he's responsible for that, this kind of things. Okay, so that's the thing. But what happens is that then comes the cloud part, and these are the different kind of features provided by the cloud. These three comes under the cloud part, right? IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS. Okay, what is IaaS actually? Infrastructure as a service. What it means is that I switch to the cloud part, okay, and in the cloud multiple services would be there which would be supporting this infrastructure as a service. What this infrastructure as a service means is that it will be providing you infrastructure. What it means is these red blocks that you're seeing, as I told you, all these blocks that you're seeing right now, whether it's in red color or in the blue color, these all are the crucial and the critical components of building the infrastructure, right? Without them, the infrastructure would not be possible, whether in the cloud part or whether in your on-premises one, right? So in the IaaS, infrastructure as service, the blocks that you're seeing, these red one, right? It is taken care by the vendor. See here, it is written here, managed by the vendor. What it means is that in the IaaS platform, your virtualization, your servers, storage, networking, all of these components are taken care by your vendor, okay, or the particular organization whose cloud platform you are using, they will be taking care of that, right? Other than that, the operating system, the middleware, the runtime, the data center, the application, other than that, everything is taken care by you, okay? So let's say, for example, if I'm deploying an application over the cloud, so what is going to happen is that I have to take care of the operating system. I have to update the operating system if there is some kind of an attack over the operating system, or ransomware attack, or any sort of an attack is there. I will take care of that. I have to take care of my data. I have to encrypt my data, protect my data. All of these things which are in the blue color in this IaaS, I have to take care of it. Fine. But those components which are in red color, the cloud would be taking care of it. Which means is that this things, those virtualization, server, storage, networking, the cloud would be taking care of it. Okay. So if something happens to my storage, right, where my data is stored, it is the headache of the cloud service provider to resolve that issue and protect my data, right? If there is a server which I have deployed, let's say, for example, in the previous session, I have shown you, right? Okay, in today's session, I will be showing you a server. Okay, I will be creating a server and I will be showing you how actually a server really looks like, right, in the context of the cloud. So the server that I will be creating, it is the responsibility and the duty and the headache of the cloud service provider like AWS. Okay, in my context, AWS, Amazon Web Services, right? AWS will take care of the server, right? The technician, their engineer will be taking care of it. I have does not have to pay for any of it, right? It is the headache of the cloud. Then we have something which is called the PaaS, platform as a service. Okay, in the platform as a service, we have again these all the components are there. As I told you, no matter what the situation is, these component would be there. So in the PaaS, if you see to this particular section, here you can see only two portion we have to need to take care: application and the data. Other than that, all the other components, the operating system, the updating of the operating system, right, if there is any sort of an issue with the operating system, the virtualization, the server, the storage, the networking, all of these components, it is the responsibility of your cloud service provider to take care of it. Fine, you does not need to worry about any of it. What it means is that, let's say, for example, there is a game, right? A video game, or there is an application that you want to, launch, right? But there is a limited budget. There is only 10 people in your organization. There is a very limited budget that you can spend. So what you will do is that instead of, you know, if you go and start creating the servers, right, where you will be storing your particular application, right, then you have to recruit many people to maintain that particular server as well. So all these kind of things are there. Fine. Now, I does not want to do that. I only want to focus upon my particular application. Again, another example I'm telling you. Let's say, for example, there is a hospital, right? And the hospital has a limited budget. The hospital want to spend the money only upon where to increase the infrastructure, to make the infrastructure much more high tech of the hospital, to bring new equipment, right? So that the patients that are visiting the hospitals are satisfied with the you know services provided by the hospital, right? So they want to spend into the hospital infrastructure, upon their patient, upon their doctors, right? They does not want to spend any sort of a money over the server or operating system and all those kind of things, right? Because they have no idea about this particular server is. Okay, so it is not going to happen that you're going to spend 10 lakh rupees for a server which you are going to install in a hospital, and that's it. Then definitely for sure you will be needing a technician for that as well, right? So you have to pay for the technician. That then there would be some, as the labor law says, that you have to pay, that there would be health insurance related to that, and all those kinds of other things would be that. So it is again, you know the cost is increasing for, right? So what you do is that you go for the PaaS model, platform as a service model. In this PaaS model, what happen is that you have two components: application, data. You only worry about your application, the application or the game that you are going to launch in the Play Store or in the application or in the iOS. You only worry about that, and the data that particular application is creating, you only worry about these things. Other than that, all of these other component, it is being taken care by the service provider or a cloud provider. Another example I tell you, right, with the PaaS, because many people get really confused with this PaaS part. Let's say, for example, PUBG. Okay, right? Let's say, you want to make a similar game related to the PUBG. Okay, so now what really happens is that you only want to focus upon the game and the data of the game, only that, nothing else. No operating system, server, that just that those kind of things you does not want to go into, right? So you approach the PaaS model, platform as a service model. What happens in the PaaS model is that you only focus upon the application, right? What is your application? This game, PUBG. You only focus upon that how good is the game, how much people are liking that game, what are the problems that players are facing it. Okay, is there is any kind of a lag that people are facing, there is some sort of a bug, you will be debugging it. Okay, all those kind of things are there. And the data, right? So data that is being generated, you will looking after that as well, that how many customers are playing that particular game, right? What are the things they are liking, what are their reviews. Okay, which are the guns in the PUBG they're mostly use. Okay, so you will be upgrading them on a regular basis. Keep on updating the game as well. So you will be only focusing upon the PUBG as well as the data related to the PUBG from the perspective of a developer. Developer is that particular person who creates something like a game or a code, right? So that's the thing. Other than that, everything, the operating system and server and networking and all those kind of thing, it is not your headache, right? It is not your problem. It is the problem of the cloud service provider. Then we have something which is called the SaaS, software as a service. As you can see that, as compared to the on-premises one, in the on-premises one, we were having the complete responsibility. Everything was our complete responsibility, right? Right. So everything was our responsibility on the on-premises one. But in the software as a service, what is happening is that everything, every bit of the infrastructure is being taken care by the cloud service provider, right? Which we say as CSP, cloud service provider, or it means that organization which, uh, you can say that it is kind of an organization which provide you that cloud platform, which upon which you are working. Okay, that is the CSP. So wherever you see CSP, it stands for cloud service provider, or in short, organization which is providing you that particular cloud supply, that cloud platform, like the AWS, Azure, okay, GCP, and all those kind of things, right? If I tell you an example of this SaaS, is that the example of SaaS, software as a service, is your Facebook, right? Or any other social media. Let's say, for example, let's take Facebook. So Facebook is an example of software as a service. What it means is that you in the software as a service model, you or me, if we are using software as a service applications or infrastructure, we are just a client. We cannot do any sort of a modification in that particular respective application. What I means is that, let's say for example, there is Facebook. Okay, so definitely for sure Facebook would have be having some big servers, right, where they will be storing your information, right, which images or which, right, you cannot do. You are just a particular customer there, right? You open your respective account, you've created an account, you open your respective account, and you start, whether you want to take someone, or you want to upload someone, or you want to visit some kind of group or something like that. Okay, you that kind of things only you can do, right? Other than that, you cannot do anything. You cannot, you know you cannot do any sort of a modification in the Facebook application. You cannot do any sort of modification in the data runtime, the operating system, the servers, the storage, right? All those kind of things you cannot do. So that is something which is called the SaaS. SaaS is where we are just a client. Okay, you cannot do any sort of a modification into any of the components. Okay, that is something which is called the SaaS, software as a service. Okay, so this was a cloud service models. Okay, there are other different kinds of models, right? A lot of different kinds of models are also present there, but these three are the very basic ones: IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS, right? Okay, okay, so let's talk about the different kind of cloud deployment models, right? So based upon your requirement, you will be deploying these things, right? Like, how would you deploy a particular cloud platform? Okay, so there are private cloud, there is public cloud, there is community cloud, and there's a hybrid cloud. So let's first of all, let's talk about the public cloud, right? So let's start with the public cloud first. Okay, so let's talk about the public cloud, which is quite easy to understand for you guys. Public cloud is that kind of cloud in place which can be used by anyone. Any person can use this particular public cloud. Okay, anyone. Let's say for example, uh, Google Drive, right? Google Drive is also example of your public cloud, you can say, right? It is a thing which is present in server. You can store that information, and you can, whenever you want to retrieve it, you can retrieve it, right? So that kind of things are there. So it public cloud means that the infrastructure of the cloud, those big servers, right? Those big servers are taken care by the cloud service provider. Okay, and it is been accessible for everyone. One has the access of that particular thing. Okay, of that particular uh, infrastructure. Anyone, right? That is not specific to someone. Anybody can have it, right? In the cloud, public cloud, it is kind of your public transport. Anybody can have an access to your public transport. Anybody can go to the railway station, or anybody can go to the bus, their respective the local bus stand, and can you know um, take a ticket and just sit there, right, and enjoy the journey. That's it, right? So anybody can get and make an account, access the resources. So that comes under the public cloud. Okay, you or me or any other particular person for any purpose can go to these particular platforms and create an account, right? User services, definitely for sure you will be charged based upon the services that you're using, but there are no restriction, right? That this specific peoples are allowed and these people are not allowed, right? That is not going to be the case. So like your Google Drive is the case of public cloud, that anybody can create a account into the Gmail and then access the Google Drive. There is no restriction that only the Google employees would be using it. That is not the case. Anybody around the globe who has a good internet connection, he can use that Google Drive, right? That's it. Okay. So I will be showing you today. We are going to, do a little bit of hands-on thing, and I will be showing you that how the AWS architecture really looks like. fine, and we will be deploying a server as well, and how that particular server deployment really looks like. Okay, so this is the public cloud, which means this cloud infrastructure is for public, anybody can use it, right? Okay, then we have something in place which is called the private cloud. What this particular private cloud is, that private cloud is a kind of an infrastructure, same infrastructure, right, as the public cloud. But the thing is that the accessibility, that who can access the resources of the private cloud, is limited. Let's say for example, in in my organization, InfosecTrain, right, we have a private cloud. Okay, but the thing is that it is not for everyone. As the name suggests, it is a private cloud. What it means is that it is private. It doesn't mean that so what it means is that in our organization for Sectrain, we have a cloud, private cloud, right? So it means that there is, if someone is from outside of the organization and he wants to access this particular private cloud of the infosec train, he would not be able to do that, right? Okay, only the employees of the infosec train would be allowed to have access to the resources. Okay, the study materials, the other kinds of lab and all the other kind of things, study materials and different kind of resources, only the employees of the infosec train would be having an access to that. A outsider would not be. So this is kind of a limitation that you have set, right? As like for example, you have your private vehicle, right? You have your bus, car, your scooties. Okay, so that is your private property. It is your personal and your private property. Okay, that is the thing. So in that particular personal and private property, it is not going to happen that someone visited a bus stand and just grabs a ticket, and definitely for sure he can sit in your respective private car. That is not going to happen. It is the private. You are the owner of that particular car or the vehicle, right? And you have the control that who can sit and who cannot. Okay, so that is your private cloud, where you have a control that who can access my resources and who cannot, right? That is the public cloud. You have are setting up a restriction. Okay, so that was public. So the public cloud was anybody can use it. It was open. Anybody from any part of the world, from right any walk of life, right? Whether he is an engineer, whether he's doctor, whether he's student, whether he's in just in school, anybody can open that particular website and start using it, right? But the private cloud is a kind of a cloud in place which is very restricted. Only certain people who have the certain credentials in place, they can only use something which is called the private cloud, right? That's it. Okay, so then we have another kind of a cloud in place which is called the community cloud. First of all, look to this particular diagram that you're seeing in front of your screen, right? So in this particular diagram, what you can see that there is a community cloud, and inside of community cloud there are three organizations written. Okay, let me explain this community cloud with an example. Let's say for example there are three banks, right? Okay, banks hold very critical and crucial data of their customers, right? Like which kind of transaction that you have made. Okay, in the last 5 years, what are the transactions that you have made? Okay, how much money is actually present right now in your account, how much credit card, how many credit card do you hold, right? And how much loan you have, right? How much of the loan repayment you have done already, how much is left, how much emis is right now running, and all this kind of financial and detail, financial as well as the sensitive detail of their customers is is with the bank, right? So bank cannot take chances, otherwise there would be severe consequences. And these consequences the bank will also face, as well as the customers whose data was leaked, right, due to the negligence of the bank will also face that. So the customers will also face the consequences, because he's now its data is public, and now the hackers can use that kind of information to target those customers. Okay, so what that happens here in this particular community cloud is that we build a community. Let's say for example there are three banks, right? Let me draw the diagram. Okay, there are three banks. Organization first, second, and third. Okay, so what really happens in this particular scenario is that in these three organizations that you have, yeah, okay. So these all of them are three. First of all, thing that you need to remember in the community cloud is that there should be a common ground, right? That these all the parties that are present, right? There should be a common ground, and based upon that common ground, they will be coming together. So, what is the common ground here? All of them are banks, right? All of them are banks. That is a common ground, right? These things could be hospital as well. There could be three or four or five or six hospitals. Okay, there could be three or four police stations could be there. So they should have something in common, right? That's the first thing in the community cloud. Okay, so these are the things. These are the three banks, right? Now the thing arises that I told you in the private cloud. Remember, in the private cloud, I told you that you have a control that who can access your resources and who cannot access your resources, right? You have a control over that. Like in the example I told you about the InfosecTrain. In the InfosecTrain, we have a private cloud, and that particular private cloud we can control who can access it and who cannot, right? But in the public cloud, that was not the case. Okay, but there are some benefit, pros and cons of the public and private cloud, right? The public cloud I told you, where which is open and anybody can go inside and create an account, whether he is in 10th grade, whether he's in 12th, right? Whether he is in engineer, right now he's doing his college, or whether he's in the job, right? Or whether a particular person is in the retirement stage in his life, whichever phase or whichever profession that particular person is, right? What he can do is that he can go to the public cloud platforms like the AWS, Azure, GCP, anything, and create and access the resources, right? The advantage for that the public cloud is, the advantage of the public cloud was that it is cheap, right? The cost of using the public cloud is very, very cheap, right? And you know it is freely, most of the time it is freely accessible, right? You does not need to worry about anything. But the biggest advantage of the public cloud is it is cheap, right? And some cases it is free as well. If I take the example of the public cloud, like the Google Drive, okay, so Google Drive is also kind of a public cloud. Anybody can go and start using it, right? It is cheap to a certain point of time, like 15 GB it is free, and if you want more than that, still you have to pay some kind of a money, but as compare, it is still cheap. Okay, right. Now, but the disadvantage of that particular public cloud is that the control over your data, right? There is a possibility, there are reports that in certain cases the Google is which of the information that you're storing in your respective Google Drive, the Google sometimes, or in some of the cases, they visit or either scan or go through your particular data that you have stored in your Google Drive, right? And that is a kind of a breach in your respective privacy, even if you are using the resource infrastructure of the Google, but the Google has no right or authority in accessing the data. Okay, so that was kind of a breach. That kind of things really exist in the public cloud. It is open, free, and cheap, but the problem in the public cloud is that somewhere down the line your privacy is being compromised. Okay, so there is a thing which is called the private cloud. In the private cloud, what has happened is that you control who can access your resources and who cannot access your resources, like in the example of InfosecTrain private cloud. But and it is good, it is secure. The benefit of the private cloud is that you have a it, full control over your data, your own data, because you are managing everything, right? But the biggest disadvantage of your private cloud is that, let's say, for example, in this InfosecTrain, the biggest disadvantage of your private cloud is that you have to take care of it. What it means is that in the, if like for example, if the data is, we have a server, okay, and some kind of a data is present in that inside that particular server, fine. Now if we look from the and that particular data server is of InfosecTrain, right? So that particular server is for our use, for the trainers use, right? And for all those individuals who are working in the InfosecTrain, for their use and their understanding or the concepts or anything like that, that particular, or if they want to access any sort of a resource, it is already present in the server. So that particular server is kind of for us only, right? But if something goes wrong, if there is some kind of a problem, or the system starts failing, there is short circuit or anything like that, there's overheating or anything like that, we have to only manage it, right? We have to pay the expenses for that, which is going to be very huge, right? That is a disadvantage of the private cloud. You have the control. It is like a private vehicle I told about, right? In the private vehicle, it is you are the owner of that particular vehicle, right? Nobody else without your respective permission would not be able to travel or sit in your respective car. right? That is your private vehicle. But what if, so you have your privacy is maintained, right? You can do whatever in your, you know, car, right? You can paint like what you want, okay? You can change the interior of it, okay? You can play the song inside of your car while driving, whichever song you like, right? There's nothing like concern. There's no concern with that, okay? But a biggest problem in the private cloud is that if something goes wrong in your infrastructure, you are responsible for that. You have to pay the money for, you know, to resolving that particular issue. Let's say, for example, in the context of the private car, if you face an accident, right? You're driving it and suddenly there is an accident, your car hits a barricade or hits another vehicle and your car gets damaged, then you have to pay the particular money from your particular pocket, okay? Right? That is something as is in the private infrastructure in place, okay? So there's public infrastructure and there is a private infrastructure. Now best thing is that we have something which is called the community cloud. In the community cloud, what is the thing is that in the community cloud there are three organizations, right? Again, first thing I told you is that there should be a common ground in between it, okay? Three thing organization, uh, like in this particular example, the common ground is that all the three organizations are the bank organizations. Fine. Now what is going to happen in this particular case is that they do not want to completely, like there is a particular bank, okay, the particular, let's say for example SBI is there. Now the SBI by itself does not wants to go to the kind of or create an infrastructure of its own, okay? Because it is going to be very very expensive. As I told you, if you want to purchase a server for only for yourself, it is going to cost you a lot, right? 8 to 10 lakh rupees it is going to cost you, right? And then you have to, you know, maintain it, and then you have to buy, recruit some other engineers as well who will be taking care of it. All those kind of things would be there, right? So there the cost would be huge, right? So the this is the first bank which definitely thinks that, okay, if I'm going to build my own internal or, you know, on premises infrastructure or my private cloud, I have to pay 30 lakhs rupees, right, per month, right? There's another bank which say that, okay, I have a bigger customer than you and I have to pay 50 lakh rupees per month, okay, if I build my own private cloud. And the third says that I have to pay even, you know, more than that, 60 lakh rupees. So it's a huge cost, right? If they go separately and build a private cloud, that is going to be costing them a lot, right? And they do not want to go to the public cloud. Why? Because in the public cloud, as I told you, the biggest problem with the public cloud was the public cloud, you know, the data, there's a problem, there's a possibility that the data can be leaked. Why? Because in the public cloud other peoples are also there, right? So that could be a possibility, okay? So that there is a possibility that the data could be leaked, okay, or something can happen to your data, right? So what they do want is that they want kind of, you know, build a private cloud, okay? So you can say the community cloud is kind of a, you know, a subsidiary of the private cloud. What really happens in the community cloud is that instead of one particular person, there are three people who will be building the private cloud, okay? So what they will do is that these three people will come together because they think that, okay, I will be paying 60 lakh rupees, he will saying 50 lakh rupees, he's saying if I build a club, you know, private infrastructure, I have to pay 30 lakh rupees. So instead of that, they come together, right, and they build a kind of a infrastructure, right, a cloud infrastructure, which only these three would be able to use, right? These three will be collecting their money, right, sharing the resources and building a kind of a server or a cloud infrastructure which only these three people would be using it. So what is happening in this particular case is that the expenditure is being divided between the three, okay? So let's say for example, previously someone was paying 30 lakh rupees per month, another one was paying 40 lakh rupees, and another one was paying 60 lakh rupees. That's a lot for an individual, right? For a bank to pay. So instead of that, what they've done is that they have collaborated together, they have came together, and they now what they are doing is that everyone would be spending 10 lakh rupees, right? Okay. Okay, let's say even 20 lakh rupees, everyone would be spending, and you can say that, you know, 60 lakh is there combined, okay? So combined 60 lakh rupees would be spent on the infrastructure and each person would be per head 20 lakhs, okay? That's way they would be having a private infrastructure in place, right? Their privacy would be maintained, and the huge cost, which was kind of an, disadvantage, it is now being divided. It is now resolved, and it is being divided into this three individuals, okay, or three organizations. That is something which is called your community cloud. Fine. Organization 1 and 2 and 3, they came together. They are now, sharing the resources, right? And they have built the infrastructure. Only these three would be using it. Nobody else outside of these three or outside of this respective community would not be allowed, right? That's the thing. That is something which is called the community cloud. After the community cloud, there is something which is called the hybrid cloud. This is the hybrid cloud. See, hybrid cloud, the best part about the hybrid cloud is that, or you can say the characteristic feature about the hybrid cloud is that hybrid cloud is the combination of the private cloud as well as the public cloud, right? It is the combination of it. Okay. The combination of your private cloud as well as your public cloud. So now what really happens in the hybrid cloud is that, let's say, for example, let me explain you this thing with an example. Okay. Let's say that in your organization you want to purchase something, right? Let's say, for example, in the InfosecTrain only, we need a server. We have a server, as I told you, right? We have our own private network. Yeah, sorry for that. Okay, so in the hybrid cloud, let's say I tell you with an example. Okay, let's say, for example, in our InfosecTrain, we have our own internal infrastructure in place. Fine. Now, what is going to happen in the own infrastructure is that, let's say, for example, this is our own infrastructure, and we can, let's say, for example, we can handle 1,000 people, right? So we have a website, and at a single point of time we can handle thousands of people, right? Okay, at the same time, it's no problem for us. We can handle that, right? It's an hypothetical thing I'm right now telling you. It is much more than that, but right now 1,000 people in this particular example we can handle, our website can handle. But let's say, for example, there is a festival season, okay, and we think that, in the festival season, what is going to happen is that for the 30 days, whichever this festival season is, people are going to, we think that from our, we have, surveyed the market, and we think that at least, 5,000 people would be visiting in this 30 days to our, website. Okay, that's a huge thing. Our servers would not be able to manage it. Why? Because a normal, the capacity of a server is 1,000 people at a time, right? And we think that at least 5,000 people would be at its peak, would be visiting our website. Okay, and that would be a huge thing, but for only 30 days, not for a long thing. So what are the approaches that I can take? First approach I can take is that I can go to the market. Okay, and in the market, what I can do is that I can buy a server which is definitely going to cost me 8 to 9 lakh rupees, right? I purchase that. Okay, and I installed it, right? And this 50,000 people, this huge traffic comes, my server is able to withstand that, right? And provide them services. Fine, they are easily able to access our websites, no problem with that. Any customers not facing any kind of a problem, everything's fine, everybody is happy. Okay, but what really happens is that after 30 days, this traffic really falls back from 50,000 people to 1,000 people, or 5,000 people to 1,000 people. Now what about this? Now I do not need this server, right? Which I have spent 8 to 9 lakh rupees. What I will do that? Then after, it means is that what I will do after this 30 days, when the traffic comes back to the normal range, then this particular server which I spend 8 to 9 lakh rupees, it is just a liability for me. Okay, but it's not going to, generate any sort of a revenue or anything like that. It is now a liability. So instead of buying a complete server, what second approach I will be taking is that I will be taking an approach of the hybrid cloud. Okay, let me explain why. Again, we have a server, and the server can handle 1,000 clients at a time. Okay, and we think that in 30 days 5,000 client would be new joining up, right? Okay, for 30 days only. After 30 days it will be back to the 1,000. So what we do is that for this 30 day, I will be going to the public cloud like the AWS, right? And in the AWS, what I will do is that I will deploy a server. I will be showing you that today as well, how to deploy a server. So I will be deploying a server in this particular AWS thing. Fine. Okay. Now the interesting thing really happens is that I will be deploying a server based upon my requirement, right? For 30 days, it will be keep on running, and I will be configuring it with my this on-premises one. So the half of the traffic would be going to this server, and half of them would be going to this my AWS server, right? None of them would be facing any issue. Everyone is fine. My organization is, happy. The client is happy. Everybody is happy, right? And now what really happens is that after 30 days, right, traffic comes back to normal, this 1,000 people, right? So then what I will do is that I will remove my this server that I've created in the AWS. I will be removing it, and whatever the charge would be there for, right, I will be paying for that only, and that's it. Okay, it means like I rented a server from the AWS, okay, for 30 days. For 30 days I used it, and whatever the charge was there at the end of the 30 day end of the month, I paid it and give the server back to the AWS. Okay, you can say that. Or I deleted that particular server, and that's it. I do not have any sort of a liability. I have does not have to pay 8 to 9 lakh rupees, right? Okay, so that is something which is called the hybrid cloud, right? So you can say that's why it said it is the best of the both world, the private cloud as well as the public cloud. Fine. Now the thing we are going to discuss is cloud storage services, right? Different cloud storage services we have, right? Uh, okay, like S3 we have EBS, right? These are the object storage, block storage, the file storage you are going to see. I will be showing you services especially, right? The S3 and the EBS and all those kind of things. So let's me show you the AWS part. Now let's start doing the hands-on thing, that how actually the cloud really looks like, right? Particularly the AWS one. Okay, just give me a minute and let me okay guys, so this thing that you're seeing in front of your screen, this is something how the AWS, that particular interface really looks like, right? You first of all, there are a few things that you need to see in this particular diagram, or you can see in this particular interface, is that this thing you can see EC, first of all, recently visited. So you can see there are all multiple things are there, right? There's Route 53, there is WAF, there is Audit Manager, Guard Duty, VPC, System, all these are the resources, right? As I told you, AWS provides more than 300 resources or 300 services, right? Okay, you does not need to learn all of them. That is not a good idea, or not a good approach, I would say, right? Based upon your requirement or the your job requirement, you need to learn. Okay, that so first of all thing you are going to see is that recently visited, right? This is the first thing that you will be opening up, and the first thing is that creating an account in the AWS part is free of cost. It will not be charging you anything, right? Free of cost. But when you are using a service, when you are deploying a server and the server is running, so definitely for sure you have to pay for that server as well, right? And the very another big benefit of this particular AWS is that something which is called the free tier. What is free tier is that in the free tier, okay, there's something which is called the free tier. I will be showing that as well to you. What really happens in this free tier is that in the free tier, right, for 1 year, let's say for example, today is 3rd of July, right, 2023. So what I've done is that today I created my AWS account, right, and it will be free of cost. I will not be charged anything for that, right? Now what really happens in that is that till 4th of July 2024, okay, till 4th of July 2024, there is a thing which is called the free tier would be there in related to my attached to my account, and many services I can use free of cost, right? It will be written the services which will be having free tier. You can see that in front of it. So free tier means it is free of cost, but only for 1 year, right? And the duration start from the day your account has been created. Okay, that is something which is called the free tier one. Now let's see some of the services. See, the moment I click into it, right, the services part, you can see that there's analytics, application integration, AWS cost management, blockchain, right, containers, game development, Internet of Things, multiple things, databases, right? If you want to deploy, create some kind of a game, okay, just click onto the game development. There is Amazon Game Lift, Amazon Game Spark. So, right, media and services, multiple things are there, multiple catalogs are there, and based upon your requirement you click on the catalog and you can see in the right hand side these services are present there, like Snail, Lambda, and all these things. Out of these things there's one service which is called by the name of EC2, right? Elastic Compute Cloud. This one, you click into it, right? This is which is called the EC2. Now I'm showing you that, again guys, pay attention. Now I'm going to show you that how to create a server in the AWS part, right? Most, if you use in the coming futures Azure or the GCP or anything, definitely for sure what is going to happen is that you will be, or most of the time the thing would be same, right? Because no matter which cloud platform it would be, at their core they are all of the same, right? So this is how the EC2 really looks like, right? So how to create a server, how to deploy a server, right? First of all, in the AWS context, first is there something which is called the launch instant, right? You came to the EC2, you can see there, here it is written EC2 dashboard. Fantastic. You scroll down and here you can see something which is called launch instant, right? You click into it, launch instant, right? And you can see that launch instant. Okay, guys, very important thing I'm going to right now telling you, okay? And you need to keep this particular thing in mind, right? I'm telling you that we are right now going to create a server, but here it is written launching a instance. So what it is? So what it means is that in the AWS, what they have done is that, the servers, right? The normal servers is called the instance in the AWS, right? Again, I'm repeating, the server, okay, in the context of AWS, they are called the instances, right? So wherever you say instances, it means that it means server. That's it. No difference other than that. Okay. Only they have just changed the name. They have made the name much more fancier. That's it. Not much of a difference is there, right? So servers are called the instances in the AWS, right? Fine. So you can see that Amazon EC2 allows you to create a virtual machine or instances that run on the AWS cloud. So whatever thing you will be doing here from your local machine, it will be at the end of the day would be the server would be created in the AWS, infrastructure. Okay. Okay. So let's get started. The first thing is name. Let's name that particular server that we are going to create. Let's name it one. Okay. You can name it anything, whatever you want. Now here comes something which is called AMI, Amazon Machine Image, right? AMI, you can see that. In short, right now you only need to understand here is that AMI is an operating system. So definitely for sure, guys, tell me what are the crucial components we need in a system, or what are the crucial component in a computer? Or you can say the software as well. So you can say that in short, in a nutshell, you can say that the two things are very important, crucial in any machine, whether it's your desktop or your laptop, whether it's any kind of a server. Okay, two things are very important. Even you can say even that the Mars rovers or any machine is there, right? Even that there is some kind of a robot is there, two things are there for sure if there is a machine. The first is a hardware. You can break it down into two part, the hardware part and the software part. Fine. The hardware is like your RAM, okay, your CPU, okay, and your hard disk, your motherboard, right? Your screen, your laptop, your camera, and all this kind of things. Software is your operating system, your antivirus, right? Your applications, okay, all this comes under the software part, right? Definitely for sure, two things, remember this thing, huh? Because we are going to come into the hardware part. First of all, right now we are talking about the software part. The software, okay, let's first of all focus upon the software part. So I told you, the first of all we are talking about the software part. So the server we are going to create is by the name of one and now right now we are deciding about the software part of that particular server, right? And again the thing is that Amazon Machine Image, again a fancy name, it stands for, you can say right now, to make it much more simple, the operating system. So whenever you see Amazon Machine Image, it means the operating system of that particular machine. Okay, so we have multiple we have multiple options in place, right? We have, Amazon Linux, we have Mac OS, we have Ubuntu, we have Windows, we have Red Hat, we have multiple thing. I want the Windows operating system. Okay, so I clicked on the Windows, right? And you can see here, look into this particular part, this one. It is Microsoft Windows Server 2022 base, right? This has been selected, okay? And free tier eligible. I told you about the free tier eligible, right? Free tier eligible means I will not be charged for it. Okay, I will not be charged for this free tier eligible one. Then we have something which is called very interesting. Now we have decided our operating system. What is the operating system which is going to be? It is going to be Microsoft Windows Server 2022. Okay, and I'm not going to be charged any for thing for that, right? Till the time my account is comes under that particular 1 year range. Okay, the moment it exceeds more than 1 year, I will be charged for that as well. Fine. Okay, so here you can see a very interesting thing which is called verified provider. What it means is that it is saying that right now we are doing everything we are doing right now in the AWS, right? AWS, or you can say the Amazon. Amazon is a different, completely a different organization. And there we have another thing which is, Microsoft. So what really happening here is that we are right now working or creating a server in the AWS, and we are accessing the operating system of the Microsoft. This is another organization, the two different organization, right? But you does not need to go to the Microsoft. Amazon is doing that thing on your particular behalf. My Amazon has visited Microsoft and they have requested that we will be paying you and you provide us your operating system, right? So our client or a particular person who wants or a user of the Amazon can use it, right? So that's it. So this verifier provider tells that what it means is that the source of this operating system, right, from where this operating system has been taken is legitimate. It is taken genuinely from Microsoft, with Microsoft permission and from genuine sources from Microsoft organization, right? It is not taken from any illegal website. So what really happens here is that, why this is so important. Many people think that, okay, why so worry about that? Let's say, for example, let's say there is a game. Okay, I'm very fond of playing games. So there is a video game, okay, which is by the name of God of War Ragnarok, right, which is recently released. So it was, when it was released, it was at least 8,000 Indian rupees, right? And it is a lot of money. Okay, definitely for sure, not it is not a good idea to spend 8,000 Indian rupees into a game. Okay, even if I'm fond of playing it, but I'm not, I do not want to spend 8,000 rupees on a single piece of a game, which within few weeks I will be completely, completing it. Right? I does not want that. So what I will do, or many people, right, or many people who are especially in their colleges or they are in the schools, what they do is that they visit these websites. Okay, there are plenty of websites, or they visit different torrent website and they start downloading these games. Okay, like the Call of Duty, and um, and there is Taken as well, right? Multiple games are there. So most of the thing people have in their childhood have, what they have done is that, or when they are in the schools, they kind of go to these torrent website and they start downloading these games, right? But the problem with that kind of games or with that kind of software is that it is free of cost, but if you need to remember this thing. There is something which is called, there is no free lunch, right? There's an English proverb that is there is no free lunch. What it means is that definitely for sure there's at some point of time you have to pay for that. So there is a game, right? The developer, the programmer, the graphic designer, and the animators has taken years to write the story, to build the characters and all this kind of things. And you can go to a website or torrent website, and with just a few clicks you can download that particular game. For that we have to pay 6 to 7 thousand rupees if you go to a legitimate website, right? Now the interesting thing happens is that there is a huge probability when you visit any torrent website, right, to play these games of like Call of Duty, Halo, or at GTA, right? You try to download it. There's a huge possibility with that game a virus would be also coming, right? Okay, that it is a big problem in the cybersecurity, right? I have in the big organizations also. So big organization, on a regular basis they keep on training their clients as well. So not only about the game part, but as the movies and web series as well. So if there is a new web series and you do not, it is kind of released on the Netflix or Amazon Prime or that Hotstar or any where, right? You do not have a subscription for that. Many of the employees I have seen is that what they do in the different organizations, they goes to some these torrent website or these telegram channels and they start downloading. There's a huge possibility when you download that particular movie, anime, or web series or anything like that, okay, a virus can also get attached with it. And when you are installing or just opening and seeing this particular file, there's a possibility that the virus would be running in the background, okay, and that could be causing a serious issue for you, right? So we do not want that kind of a problem. We want that assurity that this particular operating system which we'll be using for our server is from a legitimate source, right? That's why there is a stamp is there. You can say a stamp or surety that it is from a verified provider, okay? That it is, right? That this particular operating system has been taken from a verified provider like your Microsoft. Let's scroll down a little bit. Now here we see something which is called the instance type, right? Instance type means the hardware part. We have done with the software part, right? Or software part, we have chooses that the software would be, uh, you know, the software would be for for our particular machine would be um, this, you know, Windows server. Okay. Now we are selecting is the hardware part, which is by the name of instance type. So whenever you see in the a context of the AWS, instance type means the hardware of the operating system we are talking about, right? Okay. So we have already, it is by default, it is already T2 micro. It is a kind of a thing. I'm not going into much more detail because it would be quite complicated and it will take a lot of time. But right now you need to understand is that only instant type means the hardware part. That's it. Okay, right? So that's it. We are not going to touch it. But remember this thing, it is also free tier eligible. It means that I will not be paying for this as well. Okay. Yeah. Right. And the network setting, this is a network setting. Okay, another very complex thing, right? VPC and all this kind of thing. It's also very important. And this is the storage part. See here, it is written here, configured storage. What this configured storage means is that it is like your hard disk. Definitely for sure, you are creating a server, right? You are creating a virtual server. We have selected a hardware, okay, which is by the name of T2 Micro. We have selected our operating system software, which is Windows Server, right? 2021, right? 2022, right? And definitely for sure when you are building a laptop or a desktop, there is a hard disk attached to that as well, right? Which where all of your information is kept. For the server, the hard disk is this storage part, this one. Okay, this configure storage, it means that in short, whenever you see configure storage, it means the hard disk of your particular system. Okay, and you can see here it is written 30 GB. So it means that this 30 GB would be the hard disk would be created and it will be attached to your server. Okay, fine, this is going to be the case. Okay, so now what we are going to do is that we are going to, okay, first of all, the best practice is that after you have done everything, you have based upon your particular respective requirement, a lot of things are also there, right? Right now, I am just showing you just an overview that how it really looks like, right? A lot of things are there as well. Okay, so name is there, operating system, everything look fine. So definitely for sure, it's an highly recommend that before clicking into launch instance, it's also it should be a practice that once go through them again, right? Okay. Yep. Yeah, okay. There's another thing which is called the key pair. This is also very advanced concept, and what really happens in the key pair is that it is kind of an authentication mechanism, right? I am right now clicking on proceed without keys, okay, which is not the good method, but this key pair would be a very complex topic for you right now, so I'm just skipping it. Okay. And right now you can see that it is launching an instance, right? Okay, successfully initiated launch of the instance. So you click on the instance part, right? And we have to wait at least 3 to 4 minutes for the actually this particular server, to use it. Okay, we have to wait at least 3 to 4 minutes. That's kind of, so a little bit of a patience you need, right? You can see that the instance running is the status running, and the status check you also see by 2 by 2 check pass, right? So these are the two things that you need to understand. Okay, the running and the 2 by 2 check pass, right? Okay, so this is it. Okay, so definitely for sure, at I would say every 1 minute you have to refresh it. Okay, so this is an instant ID. This is the name of it. You can change it afterward as well. There is nothing like that. When you're creating a server and you have already kind of selected a name, that is not going to happen. That you cannot change it afterward. You can change it. This particular server is running right now, right? And the running state also I can change it from 1 to 2. Okay, and you can just scroll down. You can see that these are things are there, right? And there is something which is called the public and a private IP. If I select it and you can scroll down, you can see there's something which is called the public IP as well as something which is called the private IP, right? Private, you can say right now, private IP is for internal communication, right? And the public IP is for your, if anyone anywhere in the world, right? The thing, very interesting thing here is that we were talking about the storage part. The storage part, the few things we need to remember is that there's something which is called by the name of EBS. EBS, Elastic Block Storage. It is like your hard disk. I told you about it when we were creating the server, that it was a 30 GB. That was the EBS, right? Elastic Block Store. It is a kind of your hard disk you have, right, which is attached to a server. Okay, so if I kind of draw a rut diagram to make the concept much more simpler for you guys, so just give me a minute. Yeah, so if this is your server, right, there is definitely for sure there is going to be hardware. Okay, and then there's going to be an operating system, OS. Fine, but there is going to be a EBS, or you can say a hard disk, which is the EBS, Elastic Block Store, right? And it is going to be attached to your server. So anything that is happening here, right, which is the data that is being created, at the end of the day, that particular things is going to be, sent into the EBS only. Okay, so anything happening, any modification, new data is being generated, anything like that, at the end of the day, it is stored in the EBS only, Elastic Block Store. Fine, that's it. Okay, so hardware and the operating system we have in place. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is that now I'm going to remove it, right? And one more thing, very important thing is that you can see that this particular server, if I leave it completely for the month of July, right, for 30 31 days, right, I will not be charged anything. Okay, so but only one server, right? Only one server I can make sure that this particular server runs 24/7 for only 1 month. If I use more than one servers, I will be charged, right? Remember this thing. But it is only eligible when your account is, older than 1 year. Okay, it has been recently created. Then only, well, right? That's it. Okay, so let's move ahead. Okay, so this is the kind of a storage we have, EBS, Elastic Block Store. In short, whenever you hear about EBS, remember it's a hard disk we have, right? A virtual hard disk we have, where all of the data is being kept, right? Okay, right. So now how to delete that thing, right? That's a very interesting part. You select this thing, right? And when you do is that you click on the action part. Okay, sorry, in the instance state, and you have multiple state of it. Stop the instance, right? What you can do is that this particular server is running. You can do whatever this particular server, you can play with it. You can do whatever you want. You can host a website into it. Anything you want, you can do that. So here we have the first option is that stop the instance. What it means is that it will stop the instance. Okay, that's it. It will stop it and you will not be charged, but it is not delete. Remember it, right? Then we have reboot the instance. Reboot the instance means, so stop the instance is like your, a sleep position, right? When your system, you in your particular laptop, in a PC or desktop, you have a sleep option, right? When you click into it, like the system goes into a sleep mode, right? Same way the stop instance as well. The stop instance, this instance goes into a sleep mode, kind of it, right? And you will not be charged. Then we have the reboot instance. Reboot instance, what it does is that it reboots, it restarts your particular server from scratch one. It will just again shutting it down and then will be starting up, right? If you do the reboot instance, again, what is going to happen is that it is going to take a lot of time, at least 5 to 10 minutes for sure. It will take the particular server to restart and then coming back online. Okay, and then we have something which is called the terminate the instance. Terminate means remove. This is what it means to delete, right? So if definitely for sure, after you have done all the practicals of, you have understand something, you have played with the resources of the AWS, do not click on the stop instance, click into the terminate instance. So let's click into this thing, right? You can see that on the an EBS backed instance, the default action is for the EBS root volumes to deleted. What it means in short is that this particular server would be deleted, and that particular virtual drive, the Google Drive, the EBS one, what is going to happen is that that will be also get deleted. Okay, with that for sure. And this is an IP, this is the the ID of the particular instance, right? And this is the name that I've been provided him. Okay, still I'm convinced that I want to delete this particular server. I click into the terminate part. Okay, you can see here it is written successfully terminated, and this is the ID of it. Again, shutting down, you have to refresh it, right? And wait a minute. Okay, right now the instance state, it is telling the state of the instance is shutting down. It is shutting and it is in the process of shutting down, right? Just give it a minute. Okay, I refresh it again. Again, it's showing shutting down. You have to be patient till the time you see here a thing written terminated. Okay, you have to be patient with that thing. See, automatically it is written here terminated. It means that this particular server is gone. All the piece of information present inside is gone, right? So as I told you, as I made this particular diagram, that this is the server, right? This is the hardware. This is an operating system we have in place, and this is that you can say the EBS, Elastic Block Store, right? Attached to it. So when you delete this particular server, right, this EBS as also gets deleted with it. So what it means is that this particular server, whatever the information that I have stored in the EBS, it is gone. Okay, that is a thing. We can prevent it. There is a thing which is called delete on termination. Dot. Okay, delete on termination. In the setting part, you can change that thing as well. So what this delete on termination does is that, let me just give you an overview. Let's say for example, in this scenario, what really happened was that this is how actually your particular server really looks like them. If I simplify it, so the server has two components, the hardware, and the H is the hardware and the OS is the operating system we have. Okay, fine. So I have shown you how to select them on how to do that anything. Okay, when you are deploying a server, then we have an EBS attached to it, right? Automatically, as I showed you at the last step, there was an EBS attached. Fine. And that particular EBS was having 30 GB of a data, or having a space of 30 GB, right? So if you have so more than 30 GB, you cannot use it. Like the capacity was of the EBS was 30 GB. Fine. Okay, you can have more than that as well, right? Okay. So now what really happens is that, let's say for example, your server was running, your server was generating some kind of a data which was very, very, very crucial, right? And now that particular thing which is being generated, it is kept in the EBS part, it is stored in the hard disk. Okay. Now you do not want the server, but you want the data which is stored in the EBS. But the thing here is that if the server is deleted, the particular hard disk get also removed and deleted, and all the data which is present inside that EBS is also gone. right? We do not want that at any cost, right? I do not want the server, but I want that EBS. For that, we have something which is called dot delete on termination, right? In the server, when we are creating a server, we have a option in place. In that particular option, what I can do is that I have two options. First is either to enable the delete on termination or to disable the delete on termination. If I enable it, what will happen is that when the server is removed, the EBS, the hard disk, would be deleted by itself, and all the data would be deleted, you know, will be deleted, right? And the data would be lost. There is no way you are never going to get the data back. Remember that thing. There is no recycling kind of thing. Okay. So don't think that, if you delete this thing, you will be getting from the recycle bin. That is not never going to happen. So what you can do is that you can disable the delete on termination. What will happen on disabling the delete on termination is when you remove the particular respective server, okay, when you remove it, the EBS remains intact, right? The EBS is not going anywhere. Then what you can do is that you can attach or you can create another server and attach this hard disk or virtual hard disk with that particular server. Okay, that kind of things you can also do that, right? So so if you disable this dot delete on termination, if you delete this, just kind of disable it when you're creating the server, what will going to happen is that your server would be gone, but that EBS, that hard disk, would be remain intact. Fine. That is something which is called delete on termination. It's a very, very important thing, right? If you have enabled it and you accidentally delete your server, your EBS is gone, right? And your data is gone as well, right? And it would be a catastrophic for you, right? Because all of your data has been lost. Fine. This is something which is called the EBS. So it was one of the type of storage device we have. We have multiple. This is one of them, a very famous one, EBS, right? Okay, this is kind of a virtual hard disk, you can say, which is attached to a server. Fine. There's another thing also which is called by the name of S3. This is completely a service in place where everything is stored, right? Let me show that thing to you as well. Okay, just let me remove it. Okay, okay, right. There's something which is called by the name of S3. Let me write it down as well. In the previous session, I have talked about this thing S3, what, right? It is by the name of S3, right? Okay. Yeah. So if you want to search any service, right? Okay, if you want to search any service, what is going to happen is that you type S3 and see here scalable storage in the cloud, right? So click into that part as well, S3. You refresh it. Okay, right. So what this S3 does is that it is, you can first of all think that it is the backbone of your particular, you know, AWS, right? All, you can say that it's a backbone of all of your services, right? So what really happened here is that everything, any resource that you're using, whether it's EC2, okay, there's a service with the name of Lambda, any service that you're using, at the end of the day, they are actually storing that particular data in the S3 only, right? Okay, right, in the S3 only at the end of the day. But you cannot use the S3, Amazon S3 directly. You cannot use that. Okay, so how to use this S3? The first thing that you need to understand is you have to create something which is called the bucket, right? Okay, that's the kind of thing you have to do. You have to create something which is called the bucket. Bucket is kind of, these are the three buckets which are already created. I've created it. Okay, so bucket is kind of, you have the drive, right? The drive, the C drive, the D drive, the E drive that you have, bucket is like that. Okay. So if, let's say for example, what I means is, if I want to, there is a file, okay, or there is a folder which I want to create or store in this S3. It is kind of your Google Drive, you can say. But okay, the S3, to very simplify this thing, S3 is kind of your Google Drive, right? But it is very advanced with multiple features, very good security. You have encryption, we have multiple things other than that, right? That kind of things we have with the S3 part. Okay, so okay, so see, S3 is like your Google Drive, okay, with much more good feature and all those kind of thing, right? So now, what really happen here is that, like in the Google Drive, what you do is that you can store your, files and folder and all those kind of things, right? Same way in the S3 also, you can store your files and folders, and you can share it with somebody else. You can share it with your friends and family members and all those kind of things. Okay, you can do that as well in the S3, but the S3 is much more advanced. It has much more capability. It has much more, um, encryption, right? You can encrypt your data and all those kind of things you have there in the S3. Okay, but you cannot use the S3 directly. Like for example, if you use Google Drive, you open your Google Drive and you insert certain kind of things in your Google Drive. Okay, you just drag and drop most of the time in your Google Drive, right? But that is not the case in the S3. If you want to use the S3 service, first of all, what you need to do is that you need to create something which is called the bucket. Okay, if you see in the particular screen, there we have something which is called the AWS. These three that you're seeing right now, these three are the services we have in place. Okay, or you can say, sorry, these three are the buckets that I have, right? Okay, but so once you have created a bucket, then inside that particular bucket, what you're going to do is that you are going to insert, or take your files and folder, right? Once you have created the bucket. So that's the thing. So do not think that directly you will be start using the S3. The first criteria is that you have to create a bucket. Okay, bucket is like your drive, the C drive, the E drive, the F drive you have, right? So first of all, you have a drive in place, and then inside those drives you create your folder, right? So no matter where your folder is, definitely for sure somewhere down the line it would be present in some kind of your drive, your C drive, your D drive, your E drive, right? Same way here as well. In order to use a file and folder or save a file and folder, what you need to do is that you need to store in something which is called the bucket, the three buckets that we have, right? Okay, so what I'm going to do is that I'm going to just remove it, and yeah. Okay, so let's create a bucket. Let's create a bucket and saying the bucket name, right? Let's name the bucket one. Okay, it's a very interesting thing, this naming part as well. And the region I will be telling you, right? Region, do not focus upon the region part, which I will be explaining to you as well. And keep everything default, right? When I click on create a bucket, it is redirecting me to the one part and is saying that bucket with the same name already exists. What it means is that there is somebody, right, who is already has created in his account a bucket with the name of one. So the very important part, and where many of the people there which are very new to the cloud part that really get confused is the naming of the bucket. Okay, so what's the deal with this naming part? In the naming part, what you need to understand is that the name that you will be entering in the bucket, which that would be unique. Okay, all across the globe. Remember it. It is like your Gmail or any kind of ID that you have, username, it is common. Like let's say for example, my organization InfosecTrain has given me an official email ID which I will use for communicating or making a request or something like that. Okay, it is with the name of Amit Pandey at the rate infosectrain.com, right? It is unique. If you go like all of the users of the Google, right, which are using the Gmail, right, they have created this particular Gmail ID. None of them would be having Amit Pandey at the rate infosectrain.com. None of them would be having it, right? That's the thing. So same way in the bucket also, all the thousands and millions of users across the globe, not in just in India, but across the globe, all those customers, right, and their respective account as well. No one across the globe should have same bucket name. So whatever the name of the bucket I will be writing here, it will be unique. No particular person across the globe, no matter which region or which continent or the country he is living in, if he is has create that particular AWS in the inside the AWS infrastructure, you're not going to have two buckets with the same name, right? So let me write down any random thing. Okay, anything random, right? Right. I click on the create button bucket and let's wait a few minutes and see successfully created the bucket and just a random word. Okay, right. Definitely for sure if you scroll, if you have seen that thing when I was clicking on create a bucket, but you will see that the bucket name, the region and all those kind of things. Okay, so region is there. Let me explain you what this region is. This is also very important part. So first of all, let's go back to the AWS homepage. Okay, so this is the homepage. Now you can see that in the see here, Amit Sky, this is my kind of a name which I have assigned to this particular account, and there is something which is called North Virginia. Okay, so let me tell you that how this particular AWS really looks like, right, or how the infrastructure is. See, AWS has something which is called the region, right? The infrastructure, we need to understand it, right? It's very, very important. So in AWS, we have something which is called by the name of region, okay? REGION, okay? And now what that particular region is, that region is a geographical location from where your actually, your AWS is working. So we have different region across the globe, okay? Let me show you a world map, and through that particular thing you will be able to understand this particular infrastructure part, right? Okay, yes guys, so see this image, or you can say the world map that you're seeing right in front of you. You can see that there it is, having two dots, right? Blue one and the red one. First of all, focused upon the red one, sorry, the blue one. Okay, so blue one shows that this is an actual location, right? These are the countries or the places across the globe where the AWS has its present. That is something which is called the region, where AWS has actual data center present. That particular place is called the region. So if you focus upon the India part, right, here you have two places, the Mumbai, which was launched in 2016. So it means that in Mumbai, right, they have a dedicated name for that Mumbai region, and in the Mumbai they will be having big data centers, right, where the actual datas, the servers would be kept. Okay, and the another they have deployed is in the Hyderabad in 2022, previous year only. Okay, Hyderabad in 2022 they have deployed it. Okay, and that would, and now Hyderabad somewhere, okay, they do not disclose it where, they never do that. Okay, it's very confidential information, but they generally tell you that in Hyderabad, some place, some secret place, we have deployed these servers, big servers, big server farms, we have deployed that. Okay, for which you can use. So that kind of things really happen. All right, and you can see that in the US as well, it is California, Oregon, right? And Central Canada, it is okay, it's in the Canada. AWS government cloud, it is for the government, right? In Ohio we have. Okay, so all these blue dots that you're seeing, these are the actual location where AWS it's currently present, right? Okay. Now, the thing here is that in the red dots that you are seeing right in front of you are the particular position where the AWS is going to come, right? Let's say for see here in the Israel it is going to come, okay? In Canada West it is going to come, and in Thailand it is going to come, Malaysia it is going to come, right? And New Zealand as well, okay? Other than that, all the blue dots symbolize that it is already present there. Okay, so this is all these dots represent a region, right? So first of all, the very important thing is that why so? What it means is that these all dots shows that there are big buildings would be there, and inside that particular buildings multiple servers, multiple computers would be present there. Okay, so what you can do is that using this particular AWS account, you can send a message to the AWS that I want to deploy a server in France, right? Let's say for example there is a client, my one of my client is there, and my client is sitting in France, right? Now what is going to happen here is that I will be sending a request to the AWS that I want to deploy a server in France. What will happen is that AWS would be having big these servers, okay, running 24 by 7 in France, right? As you can see that, see in the France, Spain, they have Zurich, Milan, right? And France as well, right? They have presence in the Europe, okay? So it will be present in the France. Okay, so now what we'll do is that when I send a request to create a server in the France, what is going to happen is that it is now going to go to the France, and there in that particular big data center, my particular server would be created and deployed, right? So from right now, I am in India, just sitting in India, and I can deploy a server in the France, right? That is the thing, that the power that I have, right? So like again example, if I tell you like the Mumbai part, so in the Mumbai's also, see they have big buildings and they have these servers. So what will happen is that they will be having a big disk, okay? Let's say for example one one hard disk is there of 1 TB attached to a server, okay? What they do is that when I say I want only 1 GB of server, a server with capacity of 1 GB, so out of this 1 TB they will be allotting me this particular portion, right, which we'll be using for my particular respective work. Okay, this is how it really looks like. So just sitting in India, I can deploy the server anywhere I want. Fine, that is the thing with the region part. Okay, so I have to select it, right? So if I delete it, if I just remove it, okay, if I come back to this particular AWS part, management, you can see that here I have selected North Virginia. What it means is that in the North Virginia part, in the North Virginia, they will be having big data centers, and that big data centers they will be having multiple rooms, and then multiple rooms they will be having these big servers. Okay, and inside one of the server, what is going to happen is that my particular server that I have created would be created inside this particular server, which is physically present in the North Virginia. Okay, that is the thing. So a physical server which is present in North Virginia, and I'm sitting right now in India, I'm requesting to the AWS, okay, in North Virginia. This is me, right? I'm right now in India, okay. And what really happens is that I use my AWS account. I use my this AWS account, right? Send a request to the AWS that I want to create a server in North Virginia. AWS goes and go to this particular server which is present in North Virginia, right, and creates a server there, right? This particular North Virginia server is physically present there, so it's created, right? So if I want to deploy something, I can again say to the AWS will again go to this particular server and do some modification. Then I say to the AWS delete it. AWS will go there and delete it. That's it. This is how the actually the infrastructure really looks like. Okay, now see, multiple options you have how to choose it. You click into it, North Virginia part, and you have North Virginia, you have Ohio, California, Oregon, Mumbai, Osaka, Seoul, Singapore, Sydney, Tokyo, whatever you want. Let's say, for example, I want to deploy some kind of an application in the Tokyo. My client is in Japan. I click into the Tokyo part and just give it a minute and see anything right now. Now my change it now it changed to the Tokyo part. What it happens is that any things I deployed or do something, it will be going to the info servers of the AWS which are present in the Tokyo. Fine. And very important thing again, that based upon your location you will be charged. What I means is that, let's say for example, yeah, let's say for example there is server S1, server 1, there is server 2. Okay, this server 1 is in India and this server 2 is in United States, USA. There is server 3 which is in, let's say, Japan. Okay, there's server 1 which is in India, server 2 in USA, and there is server 3 is in Japan. Now what really happened here is that even if this server 1, server 2, and server 3, all of them have the same configuration. All of them have the same configuration, same operating system, same hardware, exactly, replica of each other, right? So S1, S2, and S3 are exact copy of it. No differences there. But because they are present in different location, S1 is present in India, S2 is present in United States, S3 is present in Japan. So what is going to happen is that you are going to be charged, that the cost for running this particular server is going to be varying a lot. Let's say, for example, I run all these servers S1, S2, and S3 for 24 hours. Okay. Again, I'm telling, I run the server S1, S2, and S3 for 24 hours, right? But because S1 is present in India, S2 is present in United States, and S3 present in Japan, what is going to happen is that their cost would be completely different. So in India, it could be like, say, 100 rupees, right? In US, it could be like, 300 rupees. Same server, right? Same server, exact same server. The hardware is same, the RAM is same, the processor is same, the hard disk is same, the operating system is also same, everything is same, right? And in Japan, it could be like 20. Just a hypothetical example I'm giving you, right? It could be more or less, but right now I'm telling India 100, US could be 300. It varies a lot. It is not specific, boss. It varies for the service by service as well. For server right now, I'm deploying the server I'm reusing. It is, uh, it could, like, right now in this particular case, US has is more expensive, right? But for some other service, let's say for example S3, India could be expensive. For some other service, Japan could be expensive. That could be a thing. So it is not specific, okay? And it's keep on changing a lot, right? So you need to worry about, you need to be, cautious about that as well. Okay. Yes. Let's go back to this thing. Click on the bucket part, and the bucket, and this was the thing I have created. I click into it, right? And what I can do is that I can, you know create a folder, right? I can enter the folder name, I can create a folder whatever I want, right? And what I can do is that I can upload a file into it, right? I can do that as well. As I told you, same as the Google Drive, you can just completely drag and drop, or just completely click on the upload path, right? And it will be, this thing would be happening, and it will be adding the files or the folder, and then upload it, right? And that's it. Same as a Google Drive, but with much more advanced feature. Multiple advanced feature is there, right? That's the capability we have with the S3 part. So we have talked about the S3 part, right? It's like a Google Drive, but much more capability. File and folder you can create it, but before that you have to create a bucket. Okay. EBS, Elastic Block Store, right? It's like a hard disk you have in place where you can store it. Okay. Now let's talk about the security in the cloud. Security in the cloud, definitely for sure you have encryption in place. You can encrypt your data like in the S3 also, right? When in the S3 part, I skipped it completely because for that part you have to go understand the concept of keys, right? There is a concept for HSM as well, right? Then there is KMS. Multiple concepts are there, but there is definitely a thing where you can encrypt your data. That is not a thing which is available in the Google Drive. In your Google Drive, you cannot encrypt your data. That's why I told you S3 is much more advanced, but than the your Google Drive. Okay. And the cloud challenges that we have. Okay, everything is fine in the cloud part. The problem here arises that the data can be leaked, and somebody else can access your data. See, why, what really happens here is that why cloud is cheap. Okay, this particularly public cloud is why it is cheap, because a piece of an hardware is being shared between multiple people, which is called by the name of multi-tenancy, right? Let me explain you why this is that. If I deploy a server in the AWS, it will be hard, and I run it for 24 hours. I will be paying, let's say for example, 10 rupees, okay, 20 rupees. I will be paying a very basic one I'm talking about, right? Definitely for sure, if I go for the advanced, I will have to pay a lot, but for a very basic one I have to pay 10, 20, 30 rupees for 24 hours, right? It's very cheap. Why it is so? What really happens in the background is that, See, I told you there's something which is called multi-tenancy. Okay, what this multi-tenancy is, that it is kind of sharing a piece of an hardware between multiple users. What is it means is that if this is the particular hard disk you have in place, right, 1 TB of it, it is this particular hard disk, piece of a hard disk is present in the Google server, sorry, Facebook server, or AWS server. Okay, and now what really happens is that it will be divided between four people: user 1, user 2, user 3, and user 4. Okay, so it will be divided into four like divided by into four parts. So this same 1 TB of hard disk, user 1 would be using, right, some portion of user 2 would be using, then some portion of it user 3rd would be using, and some portion would be the user 4 would be using it. Okay, same 1 TB of hard disk. This is something which is called multi-tenancy, when a piece of an hardware is shared between multiple people, right? Okay, so there are multiple challenges, multiple problems that can arise due to it. Okay, so what can happen is that, let's say for example, this user 2 downloaded a movie and uploaded it into a Google Drive, or whether it's in the cloud platform. What can happen is that if that particular movie has some virus, that is a huge possibility that that particular virus can jump from this user 1 slot to the other section as well. Again, there are definitely a security check, a mechanism in place, but the possibility definitely is there. That's why it is a thing. So for that kind of thing, if you are so much concerned about your particular privacy, for safety of your data, in AWS we have a complete dedicated thing which is called by the name of VPC. Right, again, very very complex and a very advanced topic. It is said that if you mastered VPC, you have mastered the AWS, right, which stands for virtual private cloud. What it does is that it is like a private cloud inside a public cloud. Let me just kind of show you an image. Okay, so if this is your kind of your public cloud you have, right, inside this a small portion would be given to you by the AWS, which is called by the name of VPC, which is free of cost. You can create multiple VPC in your account, right, but using then you have to configure the firewall by yourself. Then you should know on what is subnetting, then you should know what is router, right, what is an internet gateway, what is a NAT. Okay, all these kind of things you have to manage, and they will be charged for that. Okay, so that's something which is called the VPC. So there are challenges, but there are solution for that as well. So you have to have an understanding of the challenges as well as how to mitigate those challenges as well. Okay, then let's talk about at the end about the future of this cloud computing. The future is going to be definitely, for sure, new organizations are coming into the market, right? And I have seen like many multiple hospitals are also coming to this particular this cloud computing part, because it's quite easier for the patient, right, for the doctors to communicate together, to share the resources, to share the data, right, between multiple doctors. So let's say for example, if there is a patient has approached to a doctor and said that, so doctor, I am facing this particular problem from 3 to 4 years, right, and I'm these are the from 3 4 years I have visited so many doctors, so many hospitals across the country, and I have not get relief. Can you do something with it? So that it is quite easy if all the data is already present in like in like a kind of a cloud. Okay, it would be very easy for the doctor to analyze all the medicines he has gone through, the MRI scan, the CT scans, the X-rays, and all those kind of the blood test and all those kind of things, right? And then what he can also do is that if he wants some kind of a reference, he can have a conference to some other doctor which is sitting across the globe, right? He can share these documents with them, and he can have a suggestion and kind of talk that what approach we should take for this particular patient who has been dealing with this particular problem for the next 5 years from the previous 5 years. So the cloud part is this cloud, right, is going to have a huge impact, or the cybersecurity is having a huge impact on the healthcare as well, right? It is definitely going to change it a lot and make it much more accessible and much more comfortable for the user, for the patient, right, as well as for the health professionals. And it is also having a footprint in the law enforcement as well, right? The government is, or the state government and the central government, particularly in India, is kind its best to create a database of the criminals, right, which these local police stations can easily accessible. Today it is not possible for the local police stations to access those kind of database. Okay, right, or upload or download any kind of a material. So government, states, or different, or central government is kind of doing its best kind of create a database of the criminals, so the policemen can easily view that thing, right, and can update it about the what are the crimes that are taking place. There is online register, online FIR is also kind of thing is happening. Okay, uh, the live stream of the Supreme Court and the High Court in India is also can done, which is also with the help of this cloud computing as well, right? So